I'm joined by Ray from the band Status Quotes over there in the Netherlands. Thank you for joining us, Ray. Tell us, how did you get into Status Quo?
Ooh, I got into Status Quo when I first saw them on Top Hop. Top Hop was like Top of the Pops in England. We in Holland had Top Hop, and there they were, miming to Down Down. And I was familiar with the guitar. My father and his twin brother, they always rehearsed when I was still a baby. Not that I remember those years, but when I grew up, I heard guitar. But this was something totally different. The Telecasters, electric guitars, and that did it. That was it. I'm still hooked on the 70s Quo sound. Totally.
I would imagine so, yeah, because you're in the band Status Quotes. I mean, what takes you, and I'm always interested to know this, what takes you from being just the ordinary Quo fan into paying tribute to that through music?
Good question. For me, that was more of a natural thing. I started playing guitar a few years after I first heard Quo on Top Up, like I said. And then you learn your first chords at the music school, music lessons, and then in my case, I became a professional musician. I'm a roots and blues freelance guitar player. I played all over Europe with different artists backing them up, and not so much Quo related music. But since I grew up with the '70s Quo, there's always this love for Quo, and I never found people to do any Quo tribute kind of thing with, because they always, Status Quo was just three chords. The stigma, or what's the word in English? That typical. Uh, well, there's not much to it. Well, there's a whole lot to it playing Status Quo. And then I met a guy in 1990, Tone, which later became the other guitar player in Status Quo, and we met in Belgium at a concert, and we kept in touch. And we said we have to do some quoing together sometime. And then, fast forward to 2013, he went to the Manchester Frantic Four reunion show, and I went to the Hammersmith Odeon 2 shows. And a couple of months later, we said, okay, this is it. If we keep telling each other we have to do something, Quo wise, we better do it now, because now we heard the original Quo sound with Lancaster, Coughlin, Rossi, and Parfit. How we missed this sound, we missed this. We got to do it ourselves, because chances are that this is just a one-off thing for the Frantic Four. Well, they did another tour in 2014, of course, but by that time we already rehearsed together, Tone and I, doing the vocal harmonies, picking songs. And then we found the drummer Lorenzo, who I knew from the blues scene. He's a blues drummer, and he also told me that once you ever do something Quo wise, count me in. Well, long story short, we four people. The bass player came later, who grew up on Quo and wanted to pay tribute as authentic and as close to the original as possible. No dressing up. We don't do the role thing like in this song. I am the Parfit doing the Parfit parts, and then I do the Rossi part. So it's not the role thing. Does that make sense? The role thing.
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah.
Yeah.
We just play the music like sometimes. Well, we just shift.
Yeah, I mean that's an incredible journey, especially considering what we're about to talk about. The fact that you played at the Status Quo fan club convention in Minehead in 2019.
That's correct.
I mean, how did you go from obviously getting the guys together and thinking, oh, we need to do some Quo in here, to the convention?
Well, you do your first tryout. That was in was it 2016? maybe 15, 16. Anyway, we did a few tryouts, and it felt so good, and the reactions were overwhelming because we started from the get go. We started doing songs that Quo never did live themselves. That was one of our goals. You know, maybe you've had the embarrassment of going to a Quo gig and not hearing songs you wanted to hear. Of course, it was great to go, but how great would it be, and how great was it when all of a sudden Softer Ride was in the set? I think it was in somewhere in the mid '90s. Wow, you know. But I would have loved for Quo to do more of that through the years. So that was one of the things. Let's do a lot of stuff that they never did live before that we would have loved to hear Quo play live. So there came the list. You know, let's do Tune to the Music. Let's do, well, and then you get the problem. How long are you going to play for a night? 4 hours, 5 hours? So we visited all those songs, and you know, at rehearsal, going through them, and then we got to a set, and well, then there's that problem of people saying, okay, we would like to book you, but you don't do any hits. You got to do some hits. Well, yeah, if you want to work, you got to have a balance between the hits and the hardcore stuff. And I think that we, from reactions, that we got that down pretty good, the balance between hits and hardcore. And we had this annual gig at the Cross Guitar Festival in Holland. Maybe you've heard about it, at Mark Kelly's. That's a great little pub in England, in the north of Holland, in Friesland, the Provence of Holland. And we always did the full albums there. We played the full Blue for You, the full Mark Kelly, full On the Level. Did we do that? Or the Quo album? And the people liked it so much to hear all that stuff that, yeah. What was the question again? I'm getting carried away.
How did you get to the convention?
Yeah, how did we get to the convention? Exactly. My story was going to go there. One of the guys that booked us there, Arjen de Graaf, one of the Quo fans in Holland, I think he said to Yvonne, you should come over to see this band. And Yvonne is Yvonne Nijenhuis. She is the director of the fan club. What's the word? I don't know.
She's like, well, she's in charge.
In charge, that's the word.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. In charge. And she heard us, and I think a week later we got the invitation to do the headline show on Friday. Excuse me for these long. I mean, I get carried away.
No.
I like to talk about the Quo thing and stuff.
No, that is fine. I mean, I'm looking at the set list for that convention, which, of course, is included in the Live at Minehead DVD. I mean, you open with Hard Time, which I'm really surprised, actually, that Quo never did that themselves. What a great opener.
We love to do that. Yeah, it has that build-up, you know, that slow, easy, you know, quiet guitar part, and then, you know, all hell's break loose. I always loved that on the Rocking Over the World album. I always loved that track. What a great track. What a great opener for the album. And what a great opener to do live. We also did that the other week when we did a live stream. We started with Hard Time as an opener. And yeah, love to do that. Yeah, shame Quo never did it. Would have loved to have heard that. Yeah.
Well, it seems like something that they should have done on that tour, but, you know, there we are. You guys did it, and the other tracks on this list that I've got here: Shady Lady, A Reason for Living, Over and Done, Ring of a Change. I mean, there's a lot of it's predominantly, you know, the era in which you guys cover, the 70s. I mean, how do you go about learning all of this stuff? Because you said earlier it's not quite as easy as it seems.
For one thing, yeah, it's not as easy as it seems. They have different tunings. They use capos at weird places on the guitar. So the individual parts are more sophisticated than everybody tends to think. I mean, I have deep respect for the originality of what Parvid and Rossi did back then, guitar technique wise. But when you got everybody got the parts down, then it's all about getting locked in, the four of you, to get that groove going. Because it's not just dum da dum da dum da dum. That's Quo is just. It's not that. There is something about John Coughlin's way of playing a shuffle that kind of sometimes is not exactly the shuffle, but sometimes he's like skiing around. It's hard to put in non-technical, non-musical words, but I think I read in the 70s interviews or reviews about Quo that Quo is all about. It's not about it's the sum of its parts that makes it what it is. There's something that when those four guys get together, and I mean, were you there at the Frantic Four reunion shows?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I went in 2013.
Yeah, how fantastic was it to hear all of a sudden hear that? That completely different bass sound that Alan Lancaster has compared to Rhino. Fantastic player. Nothing against Rhino. I love the guy. Great player. But that original sound, that sound of those four together, that's hard to copy. And, well, again, from what we hear people say about how we play it, how we interpret Quo, we seem to get pretty close to that groove, that sound, that locking in, which is the biggest compliment for me. I mean, playing your part is one thing, but to as the quartet, the four guys, to get that sound, that's a different thing. And I think that's the most difficult part of when you pay tribute. I think paying tribute means that you, like with classical music, you don't play Bach as if it is Stravinsky. Mm-hmm. It's got to have a certain authenticity and vibe and attitude towards the music. It's not just playing the notes. Maybe that sums it up. It's not just playing the notes.
Well, I mean, I cannot imagine what it was like playing at that convention in front of Alan Lancaster and John Coughlin, especially some of the more complicated tracks in your set list, like Don't Think It Matters, which is very complicated, certainly in the middle, and 4,500 times. I mean, how did that feel, playing in front of those guys?
Well, to be honest, we hoped they were there, but we didn't know they were. We knew they were at the convention, but I think a couple of minutes or maybe half an hour before we started the show, somebody said, that party of 25 people, including the fan club people and the family of Lancaster, the Coughlin family, Patty Parfit, they went out for dinner around the time that we started, or an hour before. So we weren't aware of they getting in halfway through the set. They were, we heard afterwards. So they missed the first 50 minutes or something. And those were, in those first 50 minutes, we played all those hardcore tracks. So that was, I had hoped for them to be there earlier. But they saw from, I think from Umleitung on the DVD. So halfway through the set, they were present. And they came to the dressing room to congratulate and compliment us with their show. So that was a big surprise. So they were there. And then we found out they were there for the last hour. But that was fantastic. The fantastic goosebumps. I mean, Alan Lancaster walking into your dressing room, saying how much he liked it, and just like the original, and what a sound and what a groove. That was the the other way around. I mean, your childhood heroes entering your dressing room. I always wanted to enter their dressing room, and when I was a young guy, so that was amazing. That meant a lot to us.
That's a real pinch yourself moment, isn't it? Now, some might be wondering, why are we talking about the convention from 2019, where you guys have just released a DVD of it and a single, digital single, which has been mixed and mastered by John Eden.
Yes.
And the song is Your Smiling Face from the Whatever You Want album, written
Yeah.
by Rick and Andrew. I mean, how did all of that come about? There's a lot to unpack there.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it took quite some steps to I mean, we had the multi-track. We had the multi-track from Minehead, and there were some issues. Some parts were missing on the multi-track because some technical issues. Sometimes we had this little thing on the microphone that when you get in the proximity of the microphone, the sound opens up. That's a digital thing, so it doesn't pick up all the sound on stage. But that thing let us down. So there were some missing first syllables of words. So we were listening to the multitracks thinking, man, if only that problem wasn't there, we could have done something with it. Okay, but we found that we could repair some little things, and then all of a sudden, well, it was pretty good. It's too bad if we don't do anything with this. So there came this idea. What if we do a DVD? What if we could do vinyl? What if we do vinyl of the deep cuts? The songs that Quo never did. And so we got thinking and thinking. And then all of a sudden, I thought, what if I contact John Eden, who did the Rocking Over the World remix, and what if we could have him master the mix of a future vinyl release? Well, that vinyl thing kind of went out the door because with no gigs during COVID, it's very, well, cost would be way higher than any kind of benefit. I mean, you sell stuff after a gig, right? Mm-hmm. So that idea went down the door, or down the drain, or out the door. And then it struck me, what if we do a digital single? What if we have John mix and master it and release it as a digital single? And I had sent some material to John, and he was very enthusiastic about it. And he was, right away, the idea of a digital single, he said, oh yeah, wow, yeah. And it brought back a lot of memories for him. He recorded it with Quo in Holland in December '78. And so it was very nice chatting with him. I had an hour, like we do now, just an hour chat with him, talking through. And he was so generous in explaining stuff about recording back then. So another long story short, I sent him the multi-tracks of Your Smiling Face, and yeah, he sent me a few mixes, and I reviewed it. I had a few comments, maybe more, a little bit more of this or more of that, and then he came up with what I sent to you, the final mix, mm-hmm. And everybody loves it, and we love it, and I mean, to have John Eden mix and master it, yeah, that was quite a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a full sounding record. It's amazing that John Eden, gave up his time to do that, because he really is passionate about certainly that era of Quo and Status Quo in general. I mean, for those who haven't heard the podcast I did with him, it's still available. And, he is like this iconic figure in the Quo universe. I mean, how long did it take him to kind of get these mixes back to you?
How long? Well, not so long. It couldn't be that long because we had this deadline. We wanted to release it on the 24th of December, on the day Rick Parfitt passed away. But then there were all kinds of things that I wasn't aware of in the world of today, the digital streaming world. I thought, well, when you get that mix, you upload it to whatever platform, Amazon, iTunes, Deezer. But it would have taken another 3 weeks to to get it all sorted, because it was before Christmas. Very naive of me to think that it would be that. I know it's fast in the digital world, but it wasn't that fast. So we were aiming for a date before, a couple of days before the 24th of December, but then we had to postpone it until after Christmas. And then we thought maybe postpone a little more the release to get together with the, or being a teaser for the DVD release. So we kind of unconnected it from the 24th of December release date. It didn't make sense because we couldn't make that anyway. So a couple of weeks, maybe 2 weeks or so before I sent it, and then John sent it 20th of December or something, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we said, it's an amazing single, and of course you've got the DVD as well. What's the reaction been like to the DVD?
Overwhelming, I must say. Overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
We get people ordering it from Canada, Australia, America. A lot of people in England who were at the convention or who weren't there, who couldn't make it, and want to see what it was like. So, and of course, we have in Holland. There's a lot of people that. Well, not of course. Nothing is of course, I guess. But we have this fan base, and the reactions are overwhelming on Facebook. People sending in their copy of the DVD on their with their player, and it's I got it. Do you have it? Yeah, you should get it. So it's kind of like a chain or a thing that spreads around, and we're very happy.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the DVD there. I suppose I should say, do a quick commercial for the DVD where you can get it.
Well, the DVD was just released and is available through our website, statusquotes.nl, and of course some local record stores around Holland. But everybody who would like to be part of our show in Minet that weren't there, you can take us home with you and rock along. We have Hard Time, What to Do, Shady Lady, A Reason for Living, Over and Done, Ring of a Change, Don't Think It Matters, Your Smiling Face, Dear John, Umleitun, Unspoken Words, Oh What a Night, Lonely Man, Drifting Away. 21 tracks, of which half of them are deep cuts. So yeah.
Yeah, the thing that stands out there is most of those are 70 to 81, but you've got Dear John in there.
We all love the songs that Quo had these three-part harmonies.
Mm-hmm.
And Dear John is, I think it's a standout poppy rock tune that it has an irresistible groove, and to me it's one of the last. It's not Frantic Four, but it's one of the last that involves Alan Lancaster and has that Quo sound. Of course, there's a lot of great stuff afterwards, and I've seen them many times in the 80s, 90s, and so on. But for me, that sound that's still status quo as it was for some reason.
Yeah,
and everybody in the band likes to play that song.
Yeah, it's somewhat of a carryover, as you say, kind of a last hurrah for the Frantic Four, even though the Frantic Four aren't actually on it because John Coghlan isn't on the recording. But we've talked about Minehead, we've talked about the single and the DVD, but obviously since 2019, when you played that gig, which is now set in stone forever, the world has changed somewhat. What have you been doing since then?
What have I been doing since that? I'm teaching guitar 3 days a week, and I've been doing that digitally. So all guitar lessons from the age of 7, my youngest, student pupil is 7 to 70. It's all digital, and that was hard in the beginning because you have to sit with your guitar in front of, and not everybody can see what you do in when it's not in 3D in the real. That was difficult, but myself and the students became used to it, and now it's kind of, it's the new thing. So, and still doing it. I hope to do it in person again pretty soon, but it's still not good, with COVID. So better not take any risks. The good thing about not having any gigs since March 2019. And that's the only good thing about it, because there's no good thing about not having gigs. I mean, we're working musicians, so no gigs is no income and no energy from playing. I mean, you give, but you get a lot of energy from playing. The good thing is I had every weekend off, so we did the mixing and the mastering and the artwork and the video, the editing, all ourselves. Not completely true, because I did the editing was done by Andy Gamble of AVP, the video. He also did a lot of Quo DVDs. Mm-hmm. But Andy sent me some stuff, and I went through all the camera shots. And what if I told I'll send him a message. Hey, Andy, can you make that shot that you have of the bass player 10 milliseconds earlier, so when he hits that note, we'll see him. So that I didn't do the editing, but I kind of assisted Andy with that. So that wouldn't have been possible had we were we still doing gigs. I do not only play with Status Quotes, but also with blues bands and roots bands. I'm a freelance player, but no gigs at all. So what have I been doing? I've been trying to get the best possible result, mixing the DVD with our front of house guy, and I think we succeeded, because the reactions on the sound are fantastic. So yeah. And getting staying in shape, playing. I play a lot at home, just for fun. It's like a hobby.
I think it's important to continue to play for fun, because I think when you're doing it for a living, I have spoken to other musicians who've gone, once I'm off the stage, I just want to have a break from all of it. And keeping yourself in that world, in that mindset, is important.
Absolutely, it's easy to go down and getting less motivated and uninspired, because what's the use? I mean, you can't go out and play. But to keep the spirit up, sometimes it was hard. But I mean, I had this distraction getting the DVD ready, and that was that kept me going.
Yeah. Now I will let you go in just a moment, but I know that you have a story relating to Rick Parfitt's guitars.
Oh yeah, and you want me to keep it short, right?
Well, you can go for as long as you like. I mean, I don't mind. I was reading this. You told me a little bit about this beforehand, but just tell the audience, how it was from your perspective.
To actually be playing, or how we got to get those guitars?
Well, I mean, a bit of both.
Yeah. Well, all of a sudden, I think it was in 2016 or 2017, I got this message from somebody by the name of Andrew Cremona, and he sent me a Facebook message saying, "Hi, I'm Andrew, and I saw your videos on YouTube, and I love it so much what you guys do. How would you like to be playing Rick Parfitt's guitars at the memorial that you do for in this pub in the north of Holland that I told you about, Mark Kelly's?" So I was thinking, what is this? Is this a spam or a scam or? So I sent him an email back, and it became clear that this was not some fake message. This was true. This was a guy who loved what we did, and he turned out to be the personal driver of Rick Parfitt through the first decennium. What's that? Through the zeros of this century. I can't think of the word in English.
The 2000s.
Yeah, the 2000s. And he, at some point, got a few of Rick guitars. And believe it or not, he came driving from London with those guitars to the show. And we kind of, it became a very, very nice friendship. And we played those, and he had everybody who wanted to take pictures with the guitars. Everybody, he was so nice. Everybody could pose with the guitars, and that was what a fantastic guy to offer that. Nothing generous, and a lot of love for Quo and the Quo fans. So that was fantastic, absolutely. And then he came back a month later. When we did it in Holland, we did a TV show as a tribute to Parfitt in March 2017. And there he was again, by car from London, with the guitars. And also picked up a Sound City amplifier for me that was for sale 50 minutes from where he lived in London, that I would like to have, because Quo played that Sound City at that Sound in the 70s. So fantastic. So and that became a good friendship, and I'm still still thankful for him to do that, to have done that. And to be playing that Schecter guitar that Rick played in Milton Keynes during Over the Edge, and later on, he played a one-man band on that Schecter Telecaster. But the guitar that I saw him play on during my first Quo concert in '79 in Holland, in Zwolle, during Little Lady, that was the 1972 Telecaster. That was also one of those two that Andrew came with. So it was, whoa, is this real? Yeah, that's the guitar. And yeah. What can I say? That was goosebumps, pinch moment. That was, yeah.
Well, yeah, I should think striking a chord on that thing, you can hear Rick Parfitt coming back at you.
Yeah, and his sweat was all over it. His DNA.
Well, this, because I can imagine he probably would have played that at hundreds of gigs.
Yeah.
I mean, what a story. And like you say, that was very kind of that person to offer that, because a lot of Quo fans would be quite precious about these things, especially as it's probably worth something.
Yeah. And he was like, no, I mean, go ahead. This guitar should be played, and Rick would have loved it if you guys played this guitar, and Rick would have loved it if people enjoyed his guitars, having photographs of themselves with the guitars. I mean, yeah, I can't find a better word than generous, but maybe that word doesn't do justice to Andrew's whole thing about this. It's And I returned. I went to Spain. He left England, and he's in Spain now. And last year, right before the lockdown in February 2020, I went to Andrew, and to reunite him with the guitar, because there's another story. I did a DVD on Rick Parfitt style, and Andrew said, well, if you do a DVD guitar course on Parfitt style, you got to have those guitars. So I went to London. This time he didn't come. He didn't come to Holland. I went to London to pick up the guitar, and I returned it to him last year. So again, thank you, Andrew.
Parfitt style. So is that because I know that Rick Parfitt did the Rhythm Method DVD, How did your thing differ from that?
Um, how can I put it? I think, and this is with the greatest respect to Rick's guitar playing. I think Rick never really understood how good he was at what he did, and maybe that is why sometimes everybody who learns who's what's the word, autodidact, we say in Holland, when you don't have a teacher but you learn it yourself. What's that word?
It was self-taught, I
Self-taught.
suppose.
Self-taught.
Yeah.
He's more or less, well, not more or less, more a self-taught guitar player. Self-taught guitar players are not necessarily the best teachers because they learned it themselves, and for them it's hard to get those little things that make them stand out, their originality, across to somebody who wants to learn that. So his DVD is fantastic, and there's so much to learn. But I found out that some people still had problem with detailed specifics of how he hits a string or how he mutes a string. For him, it's natural. So what I did is, I'm by no means Rick Parfitt, and I don't intend to come across as an expert, but I found out with my students that some stuff, when watching me and when I do it, slowly and all that stuff, they found out that what they were missing in, just watching Rick do it. So I break down every move, and I go into the tunings, the specific tunings, the specific things that we know Rick does so well, that are so natural, some sort of funky rhythms that he plays in, like Just Take Me. There's something about it. I mean, he's so unique. And the publisher that released this DVD, it's an American company called True Fire. And that was I had to kind of convince them, because in America, Rick who? Quo was never big in the States. So I said, well, I would love to do a Rick Parfitt course because he's so unique. And they gave me the carte blanche because I had two other DVD courses on Western swing. That's more of a jazz style that I also love to play.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, okay, that sold pretty good. So yeah, okay, go ahead. So I did it, and I'm very proud of that course, and that was something I always wanted to do. Pay tribute to Rick from that angle, not from the performance side, but from the educational side of things.
And so from doing that, I'm sure that it was very extensive. But if there are any guitar players listening that are thinking, I'm interested in that, like, what's the first step towards kind of Rick's style? What's like one piece of advice that you'd give them?
With Rick, there is, Rick as the rhythm machine, playing the shuffles. I think the most important thing is, especially when you concentrate on the 70s sound, that you do not use too much distortion, not too much artificial overdrive from pedals and such, because that compresses the sound to the extent that you lose dynamics. I've always found his playing in the 70s rather cleanish than heavy metal-like distortion. So that's what I would start with. Cut down on the distortion, and then playing a shuffle. With Rick, it's more often than not, he's kind of accentuating the second note of the triplet. instead of dum da dum da dum, he goes duck dum duck dum duck dum duck. There's something, a muted in between out there that he gets from resting his pick on the string right before he hits the dum da dum da dum duck dum duck dum dum. This may be too technical for non-guitar players, but like the intro to "Oh What a Night" or the intro to whatever you want, like that's one of the standout things. I think that's. I mean, who plays that way?
There is a video on YouTube somewhere where he's playing and he's doing exactly what you're saying. He's playing like an E chord or something, and he's there and he's going da da da, and he says, and you build it into this, and he does exactly what you say, and that is a very unique Rick thing. I mean, is that something? Do you think that's something as a player that he would have just picked up on, or is it something that you learn?
Oh yeah, well that is too bad. He cannot he can't tell us anymore. But where did that start? I mean, he plays his shuffle, for example, on Spinning Wheel Blues in 1970. He's not there yet. He plays a different kind of shuffle there, and when he plays "Don't Waste My Time," that sounds different. That's more like but at some point there's this. I mean, listen to how he plays the intro to Junior's Wailing on the live album, or the intro of Junior's Wailing on the 75 live single. There's that. It's I don't know how that came about. It came about. That's what I mean. It's that natural thing, I think. And having that amp behind you at 10, full blown stacks behind you, that the reaction of your guitar, the interaction of guitar and amp, that's when it starts. You all of a sudden you get that back from your amp, and yeah, I don't know. I really don't know if that. It sounds like that came naturally to him.
I mean, that's this whole conversation's amazing. By the way, I think this is probably the most technical that we've ever gone into anything on the podcast, and I thank you for that. But I shall let you go now. But I'd like to say thank you, Ray, for appearing on the podcast today, and to anybody interested in Status Quotes. www.statusquotes.nl, and where can people pick up your guitar course?
Guitar course is available for download at TrueFire. TrueFire.com is the guitar publisher, educational material, and well, if they go to TrueFire.com and put in my name there, Ray Nijenhuis, it shows up immediately.